I'm Susie Hess.
And I'm James Tobacco.
This is Our Stories Matter, brought to you by Trauma Informed LA. Our Stories Matter celebrates the complex lived experiences of activists and healers by sharing their inspiring stories. In Season 4 of Our Stories Matter, we will be focusing on two organizations that are dismantling the 46,000 collateral consequences, Homeboy Industries and Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. So today I'm here with one of my co-hosts, James Tobacco. Martine Leyva will be joining us this season as our third host. So James, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we know each other?
Oh boy, how far do you want me to go back? All right, so I'm a former United States Marine. I'm former incarcerated, and I'm currently a master's student in the School of Social Work, Suzanne Dwork Peck School of Social Work at USC. And I met Susie, I do believe, for the first time during Denim Days at Gorilla Tacos in Los Angeles.
Okay, that is not how you pronounce it.
What?
Gorilla.
Okay, well, I'm a white guy, so I say gorilla. Most of my white friends all say gorilla, so educate me.
Guerrilla.
Guerrilla.
Yes,
gotcha,
baby,
gotcha.
that's it.
In any event, gorilla tacos are excellent.
Yes, they are. And you're the chair of Unchained Scholars.
Yes, that is correct. I am the chair of the Unchained Scholars Program at USC, and I'm very proud to have that distinction. Basically, what we do is we're a student caucus, that helps to dismantle the stigma and the consequences that follow with men and women who are formerly incarcerated. And also, we support families and those that are incarcerated at the master's and graduate school level, to help them understand that, they're relevant and that they matter too.
And I met you, because I'm one of the advisors to Unchained Scholars.
Yay!
So, but my lived experience is intimate partner violence, which fueled my passion to be in the domestic violence profession for like 20 years. And now I'm faculty at USC, Suzanne Dwork Peck School of Social Work. And I'm super excited to be co-hosting with you and starting Season 4. This is the first one with Fabian.
This is awesome. This is my first time being invited to this, and I'm just so excited and just really grateful and gracious to be in the company of Fabian. Fabian's an awesome guy, man, and having the opportunity to first meet Fabian at Los Angeles City College when he was one of the guest speakers during the Break It to Make It program function over there was just an honor, and I'm just really proud to be here in the presence of Fabian. So welcome, Fabian.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you so much for sharing your space. Fabian Debora was born in El Paso, Texas, and began his career in 1995 as a member of the East LA Streetscapers. He was mentored by many Chicano artists and muralists and was introduced to creative expressions of all forms, from graffiti and murals to sketching and fine art painting. Fabian's work has been showcased in solo and group exhibitions throughout the U.S. and abroad, including Santa Barbara, L.A., Kansas City, Brooklyn, and throughout Latin America. So welcome, Fabian. I'm so happy you're here.
Yes. Thank you for having me. As I mentioned, this is good stuff.
So can you tell us where we are and what you do here and how you even arrived here?
Yeah, absolutely. You're currently at the new entity of Homeboy Industries. And for me, and how I arrived here is that, it goes back to my personal lived experience and my own discovery and the power of the arts. Ever since I was in my own healing and transformation, art was always at the center of that. And then recognizing that and understanding the power of the arts and how it has helped me not only to redefine who I am as an individual, but also to contribute to my communities. And recognizing that in my upbringing, there was not many resources that embodied the arts. And so I kind of had this vision and this idea of, providing that space. And eventually, throughout the years of Homeboy Industries, I started to cultivate this model, which is now Homeboy Art Academy. Although this has been in existence since 2008, it was under a different name. But yes, now we are fulfilling a need in the community, at least here in East LA and Boyle Heights, that provides access and a space not only to enhance the abilities or the skill sets of the artists within our communities, but most importantly, healing at the center.
Yes. I'm wondering how has art been healing for you?
Oh man, I mean, when you think about a work of art and we see our trainees, as we call them at Homeboy, or just folks that are seeking a better life, then I see them as a work of art themselves. And so how do we help them resketch, redefine, reimagine, what that life can really look like? And I think for me, that is what has helped me. When you are creating art, not only are you inspired, motivated, but it's something that is coming from you with a deep connection, right, of some sort. And I think it's spirituality. And now you're able to then begin to believe and gain the confidence needed to be able to create this beautiful work of art. And if you apply that to one's life, then it starts to all make sense,
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was the discovery as a young kid. Growing up in the projects of Boyle Heights, I grew up in Pico Aliso housing projects. And I can recall these memories, vivid memories, when dealing with immigration. Both my parents were immigrants, and they had the obstacle already in front of them. And my father, he had to fend and provide for his family, so he became a drug dealer. And he started to provide heroin amongst these housing projects, and which also started to lean towards an abandonment of some sort of me, being his oldest son. Abandonment was now in place, neglect was now in place. And I can recall my father then became his best customer. He started to use the heroin, not just sell the heroin. And that's when I lost my father. And I remember a lot of disturbances in the household. My mother going through domestic violence, which shattered my innocence. And I would go and hide under a coffee table that my mother had, an antique coffee table with a beautiful long drape. And I would go under there and I'll get my notebook and I began to create my own worlds to escape my reality. That's when I found art to be more than just a gift. It was like a big brother. It held me. And it was beautiful because then I can really escape my reality by creating these beautiful images. And that's when I found art to be healing for me. And it held me as a coping mechanism, later to be utilized throughout my whole life's journey.
That's amazing. I mean, it's so inspiring to hear and see what you do. And I mean, we've all come from challenged backgrounds at some point in our lives, when we're, coming out of the incarcerated environments, and to see what you've done and, the support that the community has provided to you and given to you and just trusted you with, to help turn these young men and women's lives around. It's just awesome. And it's just an amazing opportunity to hear your story, Fabian. Mm-hmm. And, just being here in the moment and just listening, it's so empowering. And I don't know if people can really resonate with what you're saying in the way that I'm feeling it right now as a co-host for this program. And it's just so awe-inspiring because, you have come through so much. And, everything that you do, everything that you touch leaves an impression that is a lasting legacy. And that's something, that can't be given. It has to be earned. And so I'm just really proud of what you're doing for the community.
Thank you so much, man. And I think, after, for me personally, it's not just about being an artist, but most importantly, it's important that whatever it is, those self-discoveries, that then you can utilize that as a form to help the young men and women, or just in general, folks you work with, to hopefully them to find those personal discoveries or make those strong folk connections that are of relevancy, right, to their personal lived experience. And I think that's what works for a lot of us who are formerly incarcerated, who were once drug addicts. We serve as beautiful, vivid mirrors for one another.
That's beautiful.
Right.
Say that again.
We serve as beautiful, vivid mirrors for one
beautiful,
another.
That's beautiful.
That can walk alongside these folks. And because of our own personal lived experience and adversities we have overcome, then we're able to point more, we will have, I said, then we're able to point a lot more clear towards the light in a sense, right? And so, and it all stems from, when I tell you my story, there was a lot of obstacles already in place, and having to deal with a mother in disparity as a single mother in the housing projects, growing up in the 80s, lack of resources. There was no resources. And this is when Father Greg Boyle from Homeboy first arrived in 1986 to the housing projects where I grew up. Now, initially, Father Greg had to earn his trust and build relationships amongst the homeboys and the homegirls. It took him some time, but he was there. He stand firm. And I tell you how that connection with Father Greg served me was when I was at Dolores Mission Catholic school. And that was my mother's hope, right? You go to Dolores Mission and maybe end up in Salesian High School and hopefully in Bosco Tech one day, the ideal dream. But little did my mom know that dream was shattered already just with the label of being an immigrant and also her father who was in and out of incarceration. That dream was already been long lost, right? So in 8th grade, I'm in class and I'm about to give my mom a glimpse of the dream, and Fabian's gonna graduate and everybody's excited, calling all the tias, aunts, and everybody getting ready for Fabian's graduation, although the teacher had a different idea. I'm drawing in class in 8th grade, and in front of my colleagues, we're 2 weeks into graduation, and he says to me, Fabian, you need to stop drawing in class. And I said, why are you making a big deal out of this, bro? We're gonna graduate in 2 weeks, man. We're almost on our way out. Like I said, stop drawing in class. First of all, you're belittling me in front of my colleagues. Mm-hmm. You're embarrassing me, and now you're challenging me. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do is continue to draw in class. So I continue to draw in class. Sure enough, he comes around, and he startles me and slaps my artwork off the desk, and he says, what did I tell you? Don't draw in class. He rips the artwork.
Wow.
When he ripped the artwork in that moment, it felt as if everything that I was coping through or escaping through my art came to the surface.
Right.
He reminded me of my father and the pain he had instilled in the household. The only difference was that he was not my father, so he does not get to do that. And again, your colleagues are like, ooh, what are you going to do now? So I get up, I grab a desk, and I throw it at the teacher. Mm-hmm. Now, when I threw the desk at the teacher, he had high blood pressure, so he used to eat these lifesavers throughout the day to control his sugar levels. And I remember he was like, Fabian! Bloop! Like a little fish out of water going through convulsion, foam coming out his mouth. And then I'm like, oh, man, now I'm shocked that this guy's probably going to pass away before me. And so then I say, why don't you eat your little lifesavers now, punk? They might save your life. Being the smart ass that I become, sure enough, the principal grabs me, buys my T-shirt, takes me to the principal's office, and Fabian, again, is considered the bad kid. Mm. Fabian is the one who has to go tell his mother to cancel the party because he's no longer graduating. But before they send their troubles away, they walk him across the street to Dolores Mission Church, where Father Greg was already at play, and he was at the rectory. This is way before even Homeboy was a thought or a prayer or even came to light. He was just Father Greg at the church, right? So I walk into his office and he says, what happened, son? I go, well, this fool ripped my artwork, G, and no one's going to take that away from me but me. And he goes, ay, mijo, you're going to get expelled, son. You're going to have to go to public school, which I call the Lions Den. But before you leave, I want you to do something for me, son. What's that, Father Greg? Let me see. I want you to go home and draw me something. And right there and then I knew that Father Greg has seen me for me. He recognized my gift of art, my strength, and he returned it back to me.
Well, he gave you a sense of relevancy, right?
Right. And I think those experiences, for example, that story is what has helped me shape and understand how to create a space, how to hold dynamic, how not to set up the stage, how not to challenge kids and when working with kids. What are those questions and prompted questions that are going to be not as harmful, but yet helpful for movement from thought. I would believe, how do we provoke thought and emotion without causing harm? Mm-hmm. And that is when we consider the art of facilitation, because to me, facilitation is also an art form. Mm-hmm. And what has helped me, though, dramatically as well, is my cultural knowledge. When I think about culture, I think about tradition, I think about indigenous ancestral lineages. And in that, there's a lot of core values that somehow have been disconnected from us as people of color. So then how is it then that we can then reintroduce those medicinal elements, indigenous practices, that is going to awaken the memory and the DNA through rhythm, song, prayer. And that in itself begins to move a spirit in the space. Now, I don't impose this on anyone, but it's just another way. And it doesn't hurt to try many ways.
So basically what I'm hearing you say is you use cultural influence and your cultural backdrop to pretty much highlight what you do as an artist in the community so that people in the community can also see and have that same experience by investing in what you do for the kids that are still struggling with, trying to understand and fit in their own spaces.
Absolutely, and I think it's necessary to have a whole milieu or a menu of various ways, because not all shoe fits everyone. You have to have many shoe sizes, and it might not. Some folks might not lean directly into mental health or substance abuse immediately, and they might gravitate to the cultural traditional practice that might help them then hopefully make that decision into receiving those services.
Right.
So you have to have many doors that they can walk through.
Right.
I love what you're saying because we started this conversation before we started recording about mental health. And mental health is really a Eurocentric intervention. It's focused on diagnosis, individual, and I'm not saying it's not helpful for some. I'm just saying that what you're saying, that community care, community support is critical. And all these evidence-based interventions, knowing that, that's what I'm supposed to be teaching, is because they have the funding to do that. And because social work, that was started by white folks. And that is what they sort of siloed in on the individual, not dismantling the systems that were creating all the oppression. So I love what you're talking about in terms of art and music.
And I believe that, it's not one or the other, it's both and.
Yeah.
And I had substance abuse services, to deal with my addiction. I went to Salvation Army Rehabilitation Center out of Pasadena, and I was there being held by the Christian-based Bible studies. And because I wanted to get clean, I kept an open mind and an open heart. Whether it was through Christianity, it's okay. At the time, that's what I needed. And it didn't move me or remove me from my indigenous beliefs. But I also recognize that we must be open and willing to try various things until we find what it is that's going to serve us. And I share that to say that I could have been like, oh no, I'm not doing Salvation Army. I don't read the Bible. I could have went there, but I knew that this recovery thing was a matter of life and death. And it takes what it takes in that moment. And if that's what they're offering, then so be it. Because all I want is my life back. And I took it. I took that process. It worked for me. And here I am, 18 years clean and sober.
Amazing.
Fabian, your story is amazing. And what you do is just, equates to just something that's spectacular. And which brings to mind, what does a youth that's troubled, do when they approach you? What is the process? So let's say somebody gets out of youth authority, or let's say somebody's in the process of being just starting out getting into trouble. And, and then they have a recognition that, this aha moment, hey, Homeboy Industries can help me one way or the other. There's this art academy, in East LA. Maybe I can go check them out and see, if I can get help. So walk me through a process on how do you help somebody that's coming to you for help?
And that's why I mentioned earlier in this interview where I said we must have various doors that folks can walk through, because sometimes coming at Homeboy, just walking through the main door of Homeboy Industries could be so big and it can still re-trigger some of those incarceration moments, right? But at the same time, we look at what are your strengths and assets. Some of them are driven by being artists. Some of them are driven by music. And we have that door. And so the first thing I do when a young man comes, we do recognize that the first weeks, first days are going to be a little defensive, right? They're going to walk in with these shields up and they're going to not, so we got to gain their trust, win them over. That's what I always said. And the way we do it is just by building relationship. And at the same time, starting with a small conversation, letting them know that we're interested in you because no one else in the world has been. So we start, where do you live? Who are you with? Do you have brothers? Do you have
So you
sisters?
meet them where they're at, pretty
Meet
much.
them
Yeah.
exactly where they're at and begin the conversation. And then little by little, they start to reveal their talents, their gifts. And then it is up to us to make sure that we help them nurture that. And by holding various spaces here at the Academy, we have a full milieu of services. So for example, Monday, we do visual arts where they learn all medias of visual arts. Tuesdays, we have intentional healing circles that are led by elders of various tribes. In this case, we have Elder Tina from the Tongva, who are the caretakers of the land here of Los Angeles. She comes every Tuesday and she leads us through prayer, song, and conversation and dialogue. And then on Wednesdays, we have music production where we do recording, engineering, beat making, writing lyrics, and then they can record themselves here in the studio that we're in. Spoken word, poetry. And then on Thursdays, we have photography. And then Fridays, we also have multimedia lab where they can understand anything from VR lenses, how to create their own atmospheres, Photoshop, InDesign, Lightroom, anything and anything that has to do with technology that can also help them position themselves into a path into the creative economy. So everything we do is healing at the center, developing their skill sets, whichever is of interest, and then we hope then to create a portfolio that describes who they are, what they discover, and what they learn, so that then we can prepare them into the creative economy.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Incredible. And everything you're describing is focused within community, right? That you're not in silos. And when we came in, when you were talking a second ago about art as a mentor, and we came in, and that's what you were doing with a youth.
Yeah, I have a various folks here who I want to be able to pass the torch, right? I've discovered many jewels in the art world, and someone did this for me, so it's a must that I give it back. Do the pay it forward. And that in itself is part of recovery. You have to be of service, give back, and that is what continues to keep one sober. But most importantly, it enriches the life of one. And it gives you that purpose that one needs to keep going, right?
Yes.
And so that's all intentional. Everything we do here is intentional, and it's not to separate ourselves from what Homeboy has done. But I do say that we are unique, and we are Homeboy. So I do a little bit of Homeboy Industries, what I discovered there, a little bit of the native reservations, indigenous reservations, a little bit of my own personal 12-step recovery work. And so I just take all that and I put it all in one little model and hope it sticks. And so far, so good.
And what I'm hearing right there is this, it's community healing, on steroids for the most part, because you're talking a number of spaces, that involve yourself, it involves your culture, it involves the backdrop of where you're at, it involves the community of where Homeboy Industries and Homeboy Art Academy, which also brings to light, for me, what about any potential threats? Are there concerns, with active gang members, that Homeboy Art Academy exists to help people steer away from the gang environment?
Well, that's the beauty of this space, and I think, the minute that they decide to walk through the door, that they're signifying and sending a message. And the message to me is that they are here and willing to take any suggestions needed for them to find their transformation. So we make sure that they understand that the minute that door swings and it shuts behind them, we're all one in here. It doesn't matter where you're from. And if you have an enemy here, we're going to make sure. And you'll be surprised. We've had enemies, playing drums side by side. They don't stare at each other. They might not talk to each other, but the day will come when then they start to speak gradually to one another.
Beautiful.
Because in the end of the day, it's we're all alike, man. And I think these healing circles and all these share outs and these groups, these settings help folks understand one another, and then they find and realize, man, we're so much alike. We have so much in common, and it starts to dilute that mindset, right? That gang mindset that we're so constantly chipping away at, man. And that's what it is, challenging the belief system and the mindset embedded in us through gang subculture. And then, we're the whole opposite of that.
I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's a parallel process here. Did you want to say the parallel process? I think it's amazing, the three of us sitting here at the table.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here, I'm drawing on it, with my former background and, with Susie's background and with your background, I'm I dabbled in the gang culture when I was in prison, and I ended up becoming a lieutenant enforcer with the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang. I had to have those prejudices, to survive in prison. And, eventually I woke up and realized that that's not the lifestyle I wanted to lead. And I wanted to give myself a chance to, to be able to come out into society and succeed,
And don't you think, the power of what you just said, and then I'm a Jewish woman, right, that you're sitting with. And
and a professor.
Yeah.
At the school where I'm a master's student.
Right.
The three of us, just in terms of the diversity, in a million years, I would never have thought that the three of us would be at a table.
Right. And I think that's where it's at, right? Like, in the end of the day, there's only one common goal, right? And that's all I feel that all we're trying to do is contribute to making the world a safer place. And eventually, as we start to heal, and there is no such thing, as what you just shared about, what did you say? Prejudice?
The prejudices, yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, those things start melting away, in time. The heart feels its heart. And then, you and I kicked it off immediately, right when you said I was formerly incarcerated, I was from here, I was from that, I was like, immediately.
Yeah, because I get it.
Yeah,
I get
right away I felt the chills,
like, you and me both. We were able to recognize one another, even with with different backgrounds, different cultural backdrops. The common connection is the humanity that we developed once we decided that enough is enough.
It's almost like saying that, man, I feel you, brother, because we all kind of know the same pain, the same struggles that we went through and experienced while away from our families and incarcerated. It's almost like, oh, I feel you, bro.
Right, yeah.
We come from the same
Yes.
It's more of an admiration. It's a deep sense of respect for what you do, because as a case manager, in the community, I'm in a different arm of what you're doing, and I'm helping to, educate people on barriers that they'll face in community reentry during reentry experiences that they go through coming out of prison, whereas you're grabbing them most of the time before they actually hit adult prison.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's beautiful that
and I think we need it all. We need it all, and I think that's like we're here. It's almost like the incubator, right? They come here. It's what we do here. There is the healing circle, right? And everything I do here is in a circular motion. It's not classroom. It's not teacher-student. We're all teachers. We're all students. Mm-hmm. And they know that circle that I've created where we hold space for healing circles, it's a cultural restorative healing circle. But most importantly, the way I define that, we consider it our mother's womb. Mm-hmm. And any time that they walk into that space, now they walked into the mother's womb so they can reconnect with the medicine and the elements that mother provides. In this case, their mother, in this case, Mother Earth. But they know that and I tell them exactly this, when they're in the circle, I say, you have now entered the mother's womb. And what do? We respect it. Okay, we treat her how? Like we would treat our mothers or our grandmothers. Okay, cool. And so now you're here to reconnect and reclaim your innocence. We do a dialogue. And then we make sure of that. Now, the world is a cruel place. Recognize that when you go out there, you will beat up again. You'll get beat up once, twice, 3 times, but doesn't mean you cannot return back.
Right. It's almost like a social rebirth.
Absolutely. And then we work hand in hand. This is what works hand in hand. You're helping to clear the path when you leave this space. And it takes a village. And I've heard that many, many, many times, And education.
You never forget the village.
Right. Education is one way. I have friends here who have found their way in healing through education. I have guys here who have found their way healing through arts. And some of them just various elements that,
So how do you feel that healing through art, healing through education, healing through the circles can really dismantle a lot of these collateral consequences?
Well, I think labels have a lot to do with it. I think these labels that they've created to identify certain things is what creates this non-inclusive systemic things that we're up against, right? So what I discovered in the arts, just because of the simple fact that, we are Chicano, Mexican American, a label of being Chicano artist automatically pigeonholes you to a category that is not as accepted or not as prevalent in the art world. There's a label there. I do art. Oh, prison art. Oh, Chicano art, graffiti art. And those labels, that's just an example in the art world that I still come across as I'm trying to, make my way. I'm a self-taught artist, don't have formal education, but I'm a master painter. But the paper's work doesn't say that, you see? And so then if that's to be true, then what are the things that I've discovered that can be beneficial for the youth that I work with? Not many will go back to school. Some might just go get a trade. Some might be artists, who knows? But the thing is that I think that we have, you and I, and could be that we've learned how to navigate through these systemic infrastructures of oppression that have led us to be in these positions. You found it through education. I found it through the art and being the master painter that I am, and because of my own personal lived experience in storytelling, and I've been able to travel the world. And that is because people have given us a chance and a second chance. And sometimes people are put in positions that can literally help us get to that next destination of our lives that then will create a ripple effect of change within our communities.
Yes. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and I was also just reflecting on what you were talking about, through trauma, and with these young men and young women coming in here, it kind of speaks volumes when you start watching them, do their skill or do their craft, and you could see the trauma that's actually depicted in the artwork.
Absolutely.
And when that happens, what triggers you to either communicate with them about what they're reflecting on, or do you communicate with them when you identify the trauma that's actually depicted in the artwork?
Absolutely. That's why the beauty of art, when you're creating art, all your defenses are down. And sometimes in the moment, as they're creating art, by giving instruction of how to shade or how to do a line, you're asking questions, intentional questions. So how was your weekend? Okay, shade it like this, shade it like that. Okay, I will do a line right here. All right. So what you do this weekend? See, the defenses
That's beautiful.
It's
beautiful.
Yeah.
The defenses are down.
Right.
And at the same time, when they do depict some things in that nature, if art is about articulation and being able to sell your work, then there is a dialogue. Why is it that you painted this and this image and that? Oh, it's because there was a moment in my life when I saw my brother get killed in my arms. Okay, so it's okay. So that's great. So that's what that means? Well, not really. And then we're flushing it out.
It's like an emotional brushstroking.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that phrase.
Yeah, I like that. And so, in that sense too. And then I think it's about, and then trauma informed to me, it's important. It's a very important thing to be trauma informed. And I think I carry that very, very well in my gut or hands, or I'm just knowledgeable about that because, when we're working with particular populations, you have to be very mindful and understand, the context of what this particular population has experienced, gone through, or been through, in a way that you're not going to cause more harm, but meeting them where they're at, right? And how do we meet them where they're at? Especially one, for example, if they're gang involved, or they're African American, or they're Mexican American. There are certain questions you can ask a person of white descent that you cannot ask a person of color. And so you have to be mindful. So I always tell my teaching artists here, we have to understand the populations that we're serving, first and foremost. So when I think about gang involvement, made to be invisible, single mother, single father, a lot of violence, a lot of abuse, depending on the population, foster children, abandonment, neglect. So once you start understanding the ideal, experiences of particular populations, then it only sharpens your skill set when you're about to create or develop a process of some sort. And that's what we got to look for, because a lot of the times, formerly incarcerated men and women who are not in their own personal healing, they want to revert back into that that punishable, conditional form of holding people straight. But that doesn't go too far.
Right.
And
Right.
so what we're trying to do is invite them to really think about what it is that the behavior is signifying. And if so, what is it signifying and where does it stem from? That is where we're going to make an impact, when we recognize and take the time to know why this behavior is signifying this.
So you try to break that stereotype of hurt people, and by using a process of what I like to call approachable identifiers, when different types or different ethnicities and backdrops and influencers, walk through your doors.
Yes, and what you were saying, when you were saying that you were trauma informed, 100%, you just said it. You said it's not focused on what's wrong with you, it's understanding what happened to you.
Right.
And then, there's a kid here. There's a kid who comes here. Some of my staff get agitated at times, of course, and I develop core values here at the academy. And there's this one that I like, if you're not present, then lend us your presence, right? And sometimes we might think, this kid's never paying attention, bro. He's always has his head down. And I'm like, okay, that's okay, but he's present.
Yes.
We're going to make sure then, okay, and if that's to be true, then what can you do as the facilitator and mentor to get in there and make him to participate, or help him, invite him, not make him, invite him to participate. See, this is where the work is at.
Yes.
And so sometimes that kid's disruptive. And all this I learned from my own personal experience. This kid is very disruptive in class. He just loves to draw. Never did they ask me what is really going on with this kid and why is it that he loves to draw. If they would have asked me that then, maybe that desk wouldn't have flew across the room at the teacher.
That's right.
So there's no prejudgment when a young man or young woman comes through, and basically what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
But what you get is an amazing person of quality that just simply wants to express their humanity through art.
And also, I'm going to give you your space, but it's a tit for a tat. You're in a program. You came here to seek some help. The minute you walk through our door, you're saying that you're seeking help. And sometimes the help we provide doesn't look like the one that you want. Although, I'm going to give you your space. You're going to lay back and decompress because you had a long weekend. That's okay. But comes Monday, comes Tuesday, come Wednesday, if that still continues, then we're going to have a more in-depth conversation. Is that okay? I'm cool with that. Okay, now there's movement.
So you use your power with versus power over, that's all the systems, right?
That's it.
I mean, it's so incredible because I also think it's super political, right? Because you're changing the paradigm of how to connect with another human being that's going through it.
Through art. Yeah.
And if you fall for the more linear service providing, the kid would have been gone. And
that's right.
And he didn't show up for counseling. He didn't give me this. He didn't give me that. Yeah, you're not qualified for the program. But here we make room. We make space. But it's a tit for a tat, And
that's a valuable point you bring up. It's not like you don't qualify for a program where so many people who try to get into something because they want to be involved in something, but then they're told, well, you're not good enough, and because you're not good enough, we can't accept you. But here at Homeboy Art Academy, you bring them in no matter what. Because it's all about the will and the spirit and the drive and the determination to want to be better than what they were.
And you put it back on your staff.
Right.
Because in the end of the day, if a kid is in our doors, and it's our responsibility to give them the most fruitful experience for healing and transformation.
Yes.
But if we're going to sit here and not connect or not even make the effort to see him, because every human being wants to be seen, wants to be heard, how can we provide those spaces for that to take place? Now, you might say to me, he's not participating, he's not willing. When was the last time you were willing and you were participating to engage the kid? Because it's easier for me to throw him away, and that is where the work is. And I think it takes a special kind of person to be willing and to be able to have that patience to wait and just wait, tap, move, step back, let them grow. It's like watering a little plant. It won't grow overnight, but
you're nurturing them.
Nurturing.
Yes.
That's really what it is. And a lot of the times, because our own personal disconnect and not continuum of healing, because recovery is not I'm healed. I'm arrived. And no, it's a lifetime process, brother. And if you're not in that process, then best believe me, you're going to start causing harm for a formerly incarcerated man or woman who is in that trajectory of being a service provider in that level.
I mean, I can listen to you all day.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I can too. I can feel the vibe. I can feel the energy. You know, it's awesome. It's infectious.
It is
and that's
infectious.
What you have.
I mean, your voice is infectious. Your words are infectious. I'm like, come back. You're supposed to be like in it. And I'm just like taking it all in. I mean, your words are healing.
You know, I think a lot of people say, you know, where do you get this from? You know, like where you have a spiritual connection or you bring a sense of peace, you know, like you have this meditative voice. And I know how to like put myself in, and, you know, it's about like, you know, it's what you give is what you're going to receive, right? So when you're in a circle or you're in a space, you know, it all has to do with the delivery and the setting of the space and tone. But what it is to me is this. I tried to commit suicide. I tried 3 times suicide attempt. And my third suicide attempt, because I knew what the pain felt like that my father instilled in me. And I love that man and I miss him. And, you know, he eventually passed away, but he taught me many things without him knowing. But at the same time, the feelings that he instilled in the household, you know, I then was that guy instilling the same feelings in my household, which is the cycle of violence. And the voice would tell me that the best way that I can protect my children was to kill myself. Because at this time I had children and I knew what that pain felt like, and now I'm the one causing it, and I will be a fool if I continue to perpetuate that for my own family and children. And so when I ran across the freeway the 3rd time on my suicide attempt, I was not a firm believer. I knew there was some sense of spirituality, some sense of, you know, bigger than ourselves, but I just could not embrace it due to my own traumatic experiences in life. And also the guilt and the shame of me being a gang member and the hurt I brought to my community. But in this freeway incident, you know, after hearing voices that would say, kill yourself, demonic, I ran across the freeway with hopes that a truck can take me out of my misery. And in that moment, before the truck hit me, I yelled one more time to the sky. And then this yell was, my kids, before the truck can hit me. And there and then a spiritual awakening took place of some sort, something that is beyond my control, something that is bigger than me. And it was only through the grace of God that the truck did not hit me that day. And in that moment, I learned and understood that every son must return to his father. That day I did. And the thought of my children was the purpose why you get to live. And that's when I decided to go get the help. And I went to Salvation Army. But when I hear that it's only through the grace of God and your purpose is for the children, and that's why you get to live, then when I hear that, I hear children. And children means everyone in my community, not just my immediate children. And I think I know now that there is something greater than ourselves, and there is a spiritual concept behind all this. And the goal is that those feelings that I received in the freeway incident, peace, happiness, joy, and serenity, are the feelings that I try to prevail here in the Art Academy. And it all starts with just seeing the next woman or young man and showering them with that love, that compassion, that understanding. And that in itself begins to kick up some sense of hope and purpose that then they will carry for themselves and move into this path of transformation. And that is what gangs do not give you.
That's beautiful, man.
That is beautiful. And
that's beautiful.
And hope dismantles.
Yeah. I mean, we need more Fabians.
We do need more Fabians. But Fabian is making more Fabians.
Right.
Just when we walked in, there was another Fabian.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have to make sure.
Got good pictures of him, too.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that's the idea, right? You got to just continue to reinforce, you know, the change that is needed in these environments and communities we come from. And that's what Father Greg always wanted. And I think folks that have been in my life as elders and mentors, that's all it's about. It's like, how do you then pay it forward and be of service and give back? For you are going to leave one day, but you can leave comfortably, knowing there's 20 more of you out there doing the same work.
Fabian, we had a conversation, and so I'm just earlier, and I'm just curious. You're in the process of trying to start your own business. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think it took me about a decade to build this academy with the help of many friends and folks that believed in me. And I think now it's time for me to begin to think about assets for my family. And I do have learned that when we're nonprofit worlds, there's not many assets one can leave behind.
Right.
But I do believe in profit, and it's time for me to take what I've learned, discovered, and all the relationships I built and begin to influence a for-profit space, which is going to leave assets for my family. And it's still going to help people, but this time it's going to be on a more entrepreneur, start your own business type of setting. I'm going to create the castle or the space that is going to have spaces, whether it's for tattoo artists, barbers, or artists themselves, anyone who wants to be able to jump into this business proposition, but most importantly, to create their own business. That is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell art, rent spaces, and then this time, and at the same time, create a membership. And because they're paying for the rent space, we're going to ask them if they want to be part of my membership club. And this membership club is going to put them in a trajectory of entrepreneurship where they can then start to save and develop their own business plans and things that they need so that they start their own business. And I think that all comes from my own personal lived experience again and everything I've went through. And I think that in itself could be something that my children can then run.
Each one teach one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm pretty sure that you're not going to have any problems getting that off the ground.
No.
Because you have a strong spirit and people will gravitate to your spirit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And what you do here is life-changing. And we need more of that.
Yeah, and absolutely. I mean, if I can build this academy with the love and support from people that believed in me, what makes you think I can't build that business? And it's just amazing that I've been in this mindset or this thought-out business plan for the month, and I already got 2 folks already thinking of being partners with me. And I'm laying out the business plan, the proposal, the objectives. I'm also developing, I have an architect who's designing the interior of what my business is going to look like on a 3D motion graphic element so that then I can create my business plan proposal to go find me some partners.
I want to connect you with someone after this too.
Absolutely. And that's how it begins, right?
Right. We are so grateful for you for taking so much time, allowing us to use your beautiful space and sharing your really heartbeat. Awesome. I mean, we thank you so much for sharing you, and we see you and we hear you, and we're curious, what was it like today to tell your story?
I think it's very important. I think the more we get to tell these stories, it starts to reinforce the importance of lived experience, and also to invite the high-end institutions of funders to start to rethink what criteria really looks like when it comes down to providing services. And hopefully this interview can also begin the conversation around the power of the arts at a higher level.
Yes.
And not live under mental health, but most importantly, side by side. And how do we then infuse and elevate the power of the arts so that then we too can have access to greater funding so that we can also make a difference. And that's the idea, because the arts are often overlooked. They're starting to pay attention, but I think we need more attention in order to really change conditions.
It's almost like an alternative from medication to education.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
Good
and
job.
thank you for all the work you both do.
You're the best. Oh my God.
And let's keep this conversation going.
Yes.
Our Stories Matter is brought to you by Trauma Informed Los Angeles. We want to thank Homeboy Industries and the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program for sharing their experiences and opening their doors and hearts to us. Thank you also to Fabian Debora for allowing us to record at Homeboy's Art Academy. Thank you also to the University of Southern California Good Neighbors, and thank you to Yehuda Price for composing our original music while incarcerated. Thank you, Ivan Reyes, our amazing editor. Please consider giving us a review with a 5-star shout out. Subscribe to Our Stories Matter wherever you get your podcasts. Join our trauma-informed Los Angeles community at traumainformedla.org. Please go to our website to read the full bios and credits. Join us next week and stay tuned for more Our Stories Matter.
We would like to take a moment to acknowledge the original stewards of the land where our event takes place today. Trauma-Informed Los Angeles acknowledges the Gabrielino Tongva people as the traditional land caretakers of the Tavangar, which today is the Los Angeles Basin and Channel Islands. We are committed to uplifting the names and community members of these lands and across the nation who reside alongside us. We also want to acknowledge the suffering and forced unpaid labor of enslaved Africans and African Americans, which enabled the start of this country.